Welcome back, everybody. We have another episode of Ben on Sports coming your way. That's right. This is a 2 week episode, or 2 episode week, I should say. Those are rare. We've had a couple the last month to 6 weeks. This episode is obviously not basketball related. We have our football theme background. So we are doing our weekly NFL predictions. You didn't think I would actually forget for a week, did you? I know it's coming out on Thursday instead of Wednesday, but the Feast Week podcast took a lot of extra time and planning more so than usual. So the football podcast got delayed a little bit, but we're still getting it out uh, quite a bit before Thursday's games, and that is what the important thing is to me. So without further ado, let's get into our Week 11 review. Thursday night football, the Eagles and the Commanders. Uh, Eagles with a 26-18 win in what was a battle for first place. And yeah, I mean, this was a pretty exciting game. Commanders, their scoring seems to be trending down. They are playing some better teams, some better defenses. I'm not too worried about their offense. The Eagles definitely asserted themselves on the offensive end. If there's a weakness to the Commanders, it is their defense, I would say. The Eagles are kind of just chugging along, in my opinion. This one was a pretty big win, but I feel like a lot of what the Eagles have done has been quiet. I haven't been seeing a lot of national media covering for them or talking about them, covering them, but they're quietly 8-2. Um, that's a pretty darn good record. So we'll see if they can run down the Lions for the 1 seed. They might need some help, but Eagles are looking good. Commanders, I mean, they were within one possession. I think the game was really a little bit. I think these teams are a little bit more separated. Did one possession after watching that game, but the scoreboard is where it matters the most. Who did I pick to win? I did pick the Eagles. Rivalry game, old school rivalry game. We had the Bears and the Packers. Packers with a win. Another heartbreaking loss for the Bears. How many is that in a row? Um, I honestly am surprised. I did not think this was going to be this close. I definitely did not think the Bears were going to have a chance to win it on the last play of the game, but they did, and maybe that's a positive sign for them moving forward. I really think the Bears have only had one great offensive game, and it was kind of aided by some turnovers and bad play on the other side. So I still am waiting for that Bears offense to take off with Caleb Williams. Defense is definitely there, though. Packers with another big win, and Packers have a pretty darn good record, and they're in third place in their division, which is kind of crazy. It shows how good their division has been this year. Packers just looking to keep stacking W's together and keep pace. Who did I pick to win? I did pick the Packers. Stay undefeated on the week. Moving on, we have the Lions and Jaguars. Not a lot to say about this one. Lions absolutely destroyed the Jaguars 52-6. Um, I do have one comment about the Lions. I do think they're really good. I do think they're one of the best teams in the NFL. But in the past, when teams have done this, they get criticized for running up the score and stat padding. Are we starting to think that maybe that's what the Lions are doing against teams that are clearly inferior? They're getting big leads and not taking their foot off the pedal, and in some respects, they don't have to. But a lot of other really good teams, when they're up this much, do take their foot off the pedal a little bit. I do think Dan Campbell, everybody loves Dan Campbell, and they're willing to look past maybe some things because this is his attitude. And I'm not saying I have a huge issue with it. I do, honestly, that's my biggest question out of this game. My second biggest question is if/when do the Jaguars fire Doug Peterson? It started off so good and has done nothing but going downhill. This is an awful loss for them. Lions, another big win. Just keep that question I had about them running the score up in mind. They are still a very good team. That's not I'm not trying to diminish that at all. Who did I pick to win? I picked the Lions, just like I'm sure 99% of the world's population. Moving on. Titans and Vikings. This one might have been a little bit closer. The Titans don't go down without a fight. They're not the most talented team. They're one of the least talented teams in the NFL, but they play hard. They play a lot of teams closer than I think they should be playing them. Vikings only win by 10. They were on the road. I'm starting to worry a little bit about the Vikings offense. They did still score 23, but I don't think their offense is scoring as much and is performing as well as it should against some of these bad teams. But thankfully, that Brian Flores led defense is looking really, really good. I think Brian Flores wants to get another chance at head coaching after the whole incident and all the shenanigans that have been going on with the Miami Dolphins since he left, and part of the reason why he got fired. That's a conversation for another day. The Vikings picking up another win and staying right on the Lions' tails. I did pick them to win this game. Still undefeated on the week as we move into the Dolphins and Raiders. This was closer than expected throughout. Dolphins just decided they didn't have to cover Brock Bowers, who looks like he might be already one of the league's best tight ends. And Brock Bowers looks incredible, everything he was supposed to be. Unfortunately, he's on the Raiders that have a lot, that essentially have nothing else going right. But the Dolphins really spread this out at the end. They were able to score a touchdown and then turnovers, and really spread this game out. But it was pretty close. I think it was still one possession. It was one possession at one point in the fourth quarter, and it just got away from the Raiders late. Sorry, excuse me. I'm trying to get rid of my cough. I had a cough recently, so I have to take medicine. So sorry for that long pause. Dolphins, though, they're up to 4-6. Can they really do the impossible and bring this season back and make the playoffs? I don't know. Still a long way to go. They still have to beat all the teams they're supposed to beat, which is not always easy, especially for them, i.e. last year against the Titans. And they still have to probably beat some good playoff caliber teams. So we'll see. But the two teams heading opposite directions, Dolphins should have won this game by a lot. They won it by 15. And the offense, Tua has been phenomenal since coming back from concussion. Looks like the incredibly efficient, accurate Tua Tagovailoa that the league has grown accustomed to the last couple of years. Who did I pick to win? I did pick the Dolphins. Moving on, Patriots and Rams, and I was worried about the Rams winning a game that they should have won and should be winning, even if it is on the road. I got worried about them. They came out a little bit slow, I think. But maybe that's to be expected when you play Monday night and then have to go across the country as a West Coast team to play a 1 o'clock East Coast game. Maybe that's a part of it. But they did come back and get the win to get back to 500 after that awful start to the season. So kudos to the Rams, and they, I believe, have a chance to get first place this weekend, or at least tie for it, in their division, not the conference. But that's a completely different story. And then the Patriots, good performance out of them. They're not supposed to be good this year, but Drake May looks like he really could be the guy. Drake May has looked phenomenal for the Patriots. Really, ever since he took over as starter, it doesn't seem like he had a lot of weapons coming into the year, but he's certainly making guys like Pop Douglas look good. Jalen Polk has looked good, and even Kayshon Boutte. So he's starting to figure out some of these receiver weapons. And the Patriots, I think, definitely have hope. With Drake May, he looks like he's going to be the franchise guy, and I think the Patriots could upset the apple cart for some playoff teams. They're not going to make the playoffs, but they can certainly eliminate some teams, and I think that's what they're going to be looking forward to doing down the stretch here. Who did I pick? I did pick the Rams. We're still undefeated. We could be cruising towards a good week. Moving on, we have the Saints and the Browns. Saints pick up a 21-point victory at home. Two teams that have had some bad luck this year. Teams that feel like they should be good enough to make the playoffs. Both of these teams have a lot of talent on their roster. The Jameis Winston experience is in full effect in Cleveland. I guess they're still waiting for the upswing when he has a ridiculous game. Saints fans know a little bit about the Jameis Winston experience. Saints, great game out of them. They pick up a big win. I think we can name this the Taysom Hill game. I think Taysom Hill has one game every season, at least one, where he just decides to be really good. And for whatever reason, it was this game. What was it, 4 touchdowns? What an incredible performance from Taysom Hill. I guess I still don't know what position he is. I still don't understand why the Saints love him so much. He's good at what he does. He is a Swiss Army knife, but it's not like Alvin Kamara is a bad option to hand the ball off to either. I digress. New Orleans Saints, big win. I thought this game was going to be closer because I thought it was two similar teams with good defenses, up and down quarterbacks with good running backs, but Saints showed up to play at home today, and they picked up a win. Unfortunately, their season has probably already gotten away with them after the Derek Carr injury, but I guess it is too early to give up in some respects. So we'll see what happens with the Saints down the stretch. The Browns are definitely kind of playing for a draft pick right now. Maybe it'll help them get rid of the Deshaun Watson travesty and start over. Who knows? Who did I pick to win? I did pick the Browns. I got into the Jameis Winston hype, and for that, I apologize. I've done this the last 5 years, and I really need somebody to come and start hitting me over the head with something anytime I start to believe in Jameis Winston. So if we have any volunteers, put yourself in the comments, and I will get in contact with you and start letting you know when I need you to whack me over the head for believing in Jameis Winston. Hopefully somebody's interested in that, because I can't seem to learn my own lesson. First loss of the week. Moving on. Jets and Colts, a game the Jets probably think they should win. They definitely think they're the better team. Funnily enough, the Colts are in better position to make the playoffs, especially after this win. Jets started off slow. Colts got out to a 13-0 lead, I believe. Jets then make a big comeback, score a whole bunch of unanswered points, and then the Colts come back around them at the end. I mean, not a great performance from the Jets. The Jets defense certainly seems like it's still struggling after losing Robert Salah. 28 points given up against the Colts and Anthony Richardson, when really they haven't looked very good against any somewhat decent defense this year. I mean, heck, the Dolphins with Tyler Huntley at quarterback and bringing in Tim Boyle at quarterback, meaning Miami's defense was on the field the whole time. They were able to hold the Colts to 16. The Texans held the Colts below 20. Just the Colts haven't looked good against good defenses this year, and the Jets are supposed to be a good defense and gave up a lot of points. I am still on my Jets hate train, and I need to stay on it. The Jets have now fired their coach. They fired their GM this week. We will see what happens with them going forward. It certainly feels like they could implode. They're definitely might be out of the playoffs. I think they definitely are out of the playoffs. Even if they win out, that means best scenario, they're 9-8, and currently the 7th seed is 7-4. So it seems like that might be a little bit out of reach, even if everything goes right. Colts, on the other hand, aren't in the playoffs, but they're right there. They do have a big win over the Dolphins, which could come. I mean, those two teams could be fighting for the 7th seed, and with that win, that could propel them into the playoffs. We'll see what happens. I still think the Colts are outperforming a little bit, but if they keep winning or they're able to win enough, it doesn't really matter, right? Good performance by the Colts to get the comeback after letting the Jets come back on them. Who did I pick to win? I did think the Jets were going to win it purely because of their talent. No longer will I think the Jets are going to win the games they're supposed to, because they haven't been able to do it this year. Next game, Steelers and Ravens. It was had classic NFC North vibes. This gave me the early 2010s with Ben Roethlisberger versus Joe Flacco in the snow. Ray Lewis, Terrell Suggs leading the Ravens defense. Troy Polamalu out there for the Steelers. Just old school NFC or AFC North Ravens Steelers. There was a lot of chippiness in this game. That always makes it better. It's what you expect when these two teams match up. And the Steelers win a game where I think for large portions of it, the Ravens might have been the better team. The Steelers didn't score a touchdown, but got 6 field goals. Ravens scored a touchdown, but they still didn't score enough. Justin Tucker, 2 missed field goals. I don't know. I've seen some things about maybe the holder communication, like the holder kicker teamwork isn't there, and maybe that's why Justin Tucker's struggling. I don't know what it is, but they got to figure out if it's Tucker, if it's the holder, what it is, because Justin Tucker used to be the best kicker in the league, and he seems shaky lately. I mean, if Justin Tucker just makes one more of his field goals, the Ravens win this game, right? But if a frog had longer legs, it wouldn't hit its butt every time it jumps. So ifs are completely useless. Ravens also had some terrible turnovers. It felt like this was more of a game the Ravens lost than the Steelers won. There is, a fair conversation to be had that the Steelers forced the mistakes, but there's still mistakes I don't think you see the Ravens make. And once again, the Ravens lose a game where they just refuse to run the ball with Derrick Henry in the second half, particularly the fourth quarter. I don't know what's going on with their offensive coordinator. Leave Derrick Henry on the field. He's having a phenomenal season for you. And you can't really stop Lamar Jackson and Derrick Henry. And when you need a 2-point conversion with less than a minute left to tie the game, maybe throw Derrick Henry out there because it's only 2 freaking yards. I don't know what the Ravens OC is thinking. He's doing his best Seattle Seahawks versus the Patriots in 2014 impression, and yeah, I don't know. I'll just leave it at this: Steelers pick up a win; they stay first place in the division. Ravens fall to 7-4. They're still in the playoffs. Ravens have a higher ceiling than the Steelers, but Steelers might be a little bit better coached because they're not making the same mistakes the Ravens did that ended up costing the Ravens the game. And that's, I guess, my take. Who did I pick? I did pick the Ravens. Next game of Week 11, Broncos-Falcons. Not a lot to talk about here. I picked the Falcons. I'll go ahead and spoil it. I think I'm done with my Falcons hype this year after this game. I really thought that by this point in the season, they were going to be functioning at a high level because of the talent they have on both sides of the ball, and it hasn't come to fruition. Maybe I'm the idiot. That's very possible. Broncos, credit to Bo Nix. He looked probably the best game of his young career. Broncos defense still looks really, really flipping good. And Sean Payton, maybe he's having a career resurgence in Denver. Denver currently the last spot in the playoffs in the AFC, and they definitely have lots of competitors behind them. Let's see if the Broncos, with their schedule, can hold off all the people trying to catch up to them as with a rookie quarterback down the stretch. This was certainly a heck of a performance. I think the best game they've played all season. And they deserve all the credit in the world right now. Who did I pick? Like I said, I picked the Falcons. I'm sorry. We're on a little losing streak after starting off hot. Let's see if we can rebound with the 49ers and Seahawks. Another game. The 49ers probably feel like they should have won, especially at home. Another tight divisional game, rivalry game between the 49ers and Seahawks. Who would have thought? I think everybody knew this game was going to be close. Both of these teams, after this result, are now 5-5, which means they're tied with the Rams at 5-5, and the Cardinals had a bye week at 6-4. All four of these teams have a fair argument to say that they're playoff worthy, and all four of these teams are within one game of each other in division. This is, the NFC North is also exciting because you have three teams within a game and a half, 2 games of each other. But this division is more exciting because all the teams can still win the division. All of them are beating each other. This is incredibly interesting. I think the 49ers should have won this. The 49ers, again, have more talent, but talent seems to mean a little bit less for certain teams this year in the NFL. You got to wonder when the 49ers are going to wake up, if they're going to wake up. It seems like they're still sleepwalking in a lot of ways. Only time will tell with that. The Seahawks pick up a much, much needed win. A loss here could have really sent their season into disarray, and they find a way to pick up a huge win on the road against their division rival. 2017, I thought the Seahawks would have had to score a little bit more than that, but maybe the Seahawks defense is getting better as the season goes on. They are certainly should with a new defensive head coach with Mike McDonald coming over from the Ravens. Who did I pick? I did pick the 49ers, so the losing streak continues. Moving on to the next game, my game of the week from last week, the Bills and the Chiefs in Buffalo. Buffalo playing incredibly well. The Chiefs winning a whole bunch of close games, coming in undefeated, and Buffalo wins the game 30-21. Ever since Joe Brady took over as offensive coordinator for the Bills last year, that offense is almost unstoppable. There has been a few teams that have done it, most notably the Texans and the Ravens this year. Buffalo looks really, really good, especially at home. Kansas City, the first loss was coming eventually. I still think Kansas City's problem. I know their defense gave up 30, but it's the first time in like a year and a half or something like that. It's going to happen every once in a while, especially against a really good offense in Buffalo. Buffalo was up for this game. They're kind of I would think it's fair to say the Bills and the Chiefs are rivals, especially in the same way that like Tom Brady and Peyton Manning were rivals with their teams. They're not in the same division, but they see each other essentially every year because they're always at the top of their division. They see each other in the playoffs, I don't think they like each other in a lot of ways. So great win by the Bills. Now they're only one game out of the Chiefs for the number one overall seed in the AFC, and they have the tiebreaker. So they just have to be one game better, and they clinch home field through the playoffs. The Ravens' loss, I think, also helps the Bills because the Ravens were right behind the Bills. Anyway, Chiefs, you knew the first loss was coming. It's all good. I still think they need to get their offense figured out. Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes, I know they have injuries, but there's still enough pieces, in my opinion, where they should have it figured out soon. Patrick Mahomes not having a Patrick Mahomes type season. That is for sure. Who did I pick to win? I did pick the Bills to win. Chargers and Bengals. Monday Night Football. The Chargers, man, big lead. Bengals come all the way back to tie it up at 27-27. Chargers fans are probably thinking about that Jacksonville playoff game 2 years ago, getting the flashbacks, and then all of a sudden, a high-scoring game, just nobody could score for like 6 straight possessions. It was 3 and out, 3 and out, 3 and out. And the Chargers end up coming up with a big touchdown, less than 30 seconds left. A great run out of J.K. Dobbins. It's good to see him finally healthy, somebody that's had a lot of talent, all the talent in the world, and just couldn't stay on the field. He's staying on the field this season. Jim Harbaugh has the Chargers moving with that win. Bengals, another close loss. If they could just win a couple more one-possession games, they could be leading their division right now, and I'm not being sarcastic. I think that mathematically is the truth. Bengals are still hanging around the playoff hunt as well. That last spot looks like it's going to be shaping up to the Broncos, Colts, Bengals, and Dolphins, but the Broncos right now have, I think, a 1.5 lead, 2-game lead over all those teams. So they still have a nice little cushion. So, I mean, we'll see if some of these teams can catch up with them. But that 7 spot looks like it's going to be mighty interesting in the AFC because it looks like the top 6 seeds are locked in unless somebody has a complete meltdown. But also, even though the Bengals as a team aren't having a good year, I do want to give props to Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase because what they are doing this year is incredible. They're both having phenomenal seasons and they both might be cruising towards their best season of their young careers. Who did I pick to win? I did think the Bengals were going to find a way to win this game and really shake up the AFC playoff picture, but the Chargers, with a clutch play at the end, were able to fight that off. Last game of the week, Monday Night Football, the Battle of Texas. Not a lot to say. It was closer than I thought it was going to be early, and then at the end, the Texans really, really separated, really pulled the game apart. I mean, Dallas, the only Big Four sports team that does not have a home win this season, kind of tells you how their season is going. Quarterback hurt. They've been dealing with injuries all over the field. Quarterback's not returning at this point. They're definitely not making the playoffs. They're definitely not going to do anything productive. They might just want to consider packing it in towards the end of the year. Not quite yet. It's too early to do that. But just get a good draft pick and try and reconstruct your team around the core you have right now. Because let's be honest, does Jerry Jones ever really blow it all the way up? No. Texans pick up a pretty big win. Good for them. I think they're kind of alone in their division. For them, they're just playing for seeding. And right now, they are the 4 seed behind all of the division leaders. And like I said, I think the Texans are a good team, and I know that they have wins against teams like the Bills this year. I still don't know if when the playoffs come around, they're ready to take a step up and compete with the Chiefs, the Bills, and the Ravens, these guys that have been the flag bearers for the AFC for the last 5 or so years, 3 to 5 years, I guess I should say. But we'll see what happens. Good win by the Texans. They won by as much as they should have. Who did I pick? I did pick the Texans. So we won a couple games here. We definitely started off really hot this week and then had a little lull for a couple games. What does that bring me to on the week? You can see week 11, I am at 8-6. Not a good week. 8-6 is not going to cut it. We were so hot. 4 12-win weeks in a row, and now we are coming off of a 9-5 week 10 and 8-6 week 11. We got to get it quickly turned around because we're aiming for 70-ish% winning percentage, and we're starting to fall a little bit below it. We were right there, heading right for it, and we're falling a little bit below it. We're going to hopefully heat up this week. There is 6 teams on the bye week, which means it's not 14 games like it has been. We're going to be down to 13 games, so there's not a lot of games this week, so that could be really good or really bad. You win the majority of them, you have a super high winning percentage, but it only takes getting 3 or 4 wrong. And when in a normal week, 3 or 4 wrong, you can still get 12 wins, but 3 or 4 wrong here could cost you double-digit wins, which we really need to get back on track. So hopefully this week I straighten it up. Ebbs and flows, right? Every team has ebbs and flows. I'm going to have ebbs and flows as I'm picking the games. So put down in the comments how you guys did this week. I hope you guys did better than me. Let me know what your picks are for this week. Let's get into week 12. Here you go, your week 12 symbols. Not all of these symbols will be used this week, but I just want to put them in here every week so everybody knows what they are. We memorize them. That way we don't even have to use the slide if we don't want to. One of these symbols will not be used this week. I'm not going to use the symbols just to use them all. Anyway, keep a lookout. Most of them will be used this week. So Thursday Night Football, Cleveland Browns, Pittsburgh Steelers. Cleveland does like to upset divisional opponents at home. Cleveland usually plays Pittsburgh close. It's I feel very similar about this. I don't know if you guys remember a couple weeks ago, maybe it was a month ago, when I was talking about the Browns and the Ravens. The Browns play the Ravens, kind of close to 50-50, a lot closer than you think it would be with those teams' histories. The Browns don't win a lot of games, but they usually show up for divisional opponents. They like to beat their divisional opponents. They like to ruin their seasons, and this is a perfect opportunity for the Browns to continue doing the same. They're at home on Thursday Night Football on national TV against the Steelers team that probably isn't actually 8-2 good, maybe more like 7-4, 6-4, kind of good, right? Still winning record, but a little bit closer to 500. Be really, really funny for the Browns to win this game. I do think this could be very low scoring. The Browns have had a good defense most of the year. That for the large portions, not every game, like last week, which last week was partially due to turnovers. But the Browns this season have had some very good defensive games where they hold some very good offensive teams to not a lot of points. The Steelers, the defense is the strength of the team and could very well be aiming to pitch a shutout because that's just how the Steelers are. My brain is telling me to pick the Steelers. They're very clearly the better team. They should win this game. They have more talent on both sides of the ball. But my heart wants to see the Browns win because it would be the most Browns thing to do of the last 5 or 6 years to have a 2-8 record in last place and beat your 8-2 divisional rivals at home, because that's what the Browns have done. I said all this stuff, the same stuff about the Ravens, and I picked the Ravens because I was supposed to, because they were clearly the better team, and then the Browns beat the Ravens. You would think I would learn my lesson. I'm going to double down, and I'm going to pick the Steelers this week. I don't think Mike Tomlin loses games that he's supposed to win. I think he does it a lot less than John Harbaugh does. I'm going to pick the Steelers just because they have more talent. Getting into the Sunday slate, I'm making this a top 5 game of the week. Because there's not as many games, there's not as many choices. I had an easy 4. This was my 5th one because I want to see what the Bears do. They're facing a lot of controversy on a 4-game losing streak with a rookie quarterback, and they're playing a really good divisional rival in the Vikings. This could be very interesting. I think this is going to be a defensive war. Obviously, rookie quarterback for the Bears, Brian Flores, has a confusing defense for rookie quarterbacks. The Vikings defense has been stellar all year. And on the flip side, the Vikings offense, I think, is starting to taper off a little bit, and the Bears have had a really good defense as well. This could be a defensive war. I kind of hope it is. Give me that NFC North November football. It's getting cold outside. Not a lot of points getting scored. So I think it would be really fun to watch that type of game. I'm hoping that's what happens. But maybe Caleb Williams is going to break out one week, and maybe this is the week. Who knows? The Bears certainly don't want to make it 5 losses in a row, right? They are at home. The Vikings don't want to lose touch of the Lions, though. They're only 1 game back of the Lions, and they still have to play them one more time, I believe. I don't believe I know that they still have to play them one more time. So the Vikings, as far as the Vikings are concerned, the 1 seed is still very much in reach. And for all those reasons, I'm going to pick the Vikings. We are moving on to the next game. The Colts and the Lions. Colts nursing that 5-6 record, barely just keeping touch with playoff teams. And you know what's going to happen this week at home in a dome? They're going to lose the game. uh, Colts with what I believe was an upset on the betting lines last week. Not going to happen this week. The Lions don't really get upset. The Lions are playing incredible football right now. I was talking earlier, just this podcast, about how they're absolutely obliterating bad teams. And maybe the Colts aren't a bad team, but they're not a good team either. The Lions are certainly 2 touchdowns better than the Colts, at least. This could be another game where the Lions definitely hit 30 and push for 40, and the Colts are going to be sitting there like to the 10 to 15 range. I'm predicting another big win for the Lions here. They're just playing really well, and I don't think the Colts have what it takes to stop them on either side of the ball. Giants and Buccaneers, 2 losing records, although they're not built the same. The Bucs have had a tough schedule. They've dealt with some injuries. Are they actually a below 500 team? Probably not. Bucs and Dolphins, I think, are kind of similar in a lot of ways this season. Maybe not in the way the team is made up in the way they play, but just that they're probably both better than their records entail. I guess it's something about Florida teams this year. Giants at home. The Giants aren't very good, but they seem to play almost everybody close. They have quarterback controversy galore. um, I just don't see too many ways. I see a couple ways the Giants win this game, but I don't see a lot. I don't see enough. There's a lot more ways for the Buccaneers to win this game. I think the offense for the Buccaneers will get going eventually. And the Giants, if you score enough, I mean, once you get to like 20 points, the Giants offense can't match it anyway. So I'm going to pick the Buccaneers to win this one on the road. This is kind of unfair. Just like there's not a lot of good choices for top 5 game of the week, not a lot of great choices for toilet bowl game of the week. Then pretty much every game, there's at least one good team or at least one team that's fun to watch. It was between this game and another game for the toilet bowl game of the week, just because this one is in New York. And the Giants, even when they win, have been unwatchable. I'm going to give them the toilet bowl game of the week. And I hate the Meadowlands. Remove the turf. I don't know if that's a hot take or not. But yeah, this is the toilet bowl game of the week, mainly because of the Giants. But the Buccaneers do have a losing record. Although, like I was mentioning, they're built a little bit differently. Moving on. The other game that was contention for toilet bowl game of the week, the Dolphins and Patriots. And the reason why it won out is there's at least compelling storylines with both of these teams. Miami trying to do the impossible and make the playoffs after their 2-6 start. Patriots, they have at least one really big compelling storyline. They have Drake May. I would argue there's a second storyline. They want to win football games even if they're not supposed to, and they have the ability to, and they're going to be able to beat some teams that they probably shouldn't, and ruin seasons. And boy, do they have a pristine opportunity to ruin a season this weekend against Miami. In Miami, Miami wins this. They're back to 5-6, and you're really building momentum. You're on a 3-game losing streak, and you feel like there's still a chance to bring this season back. If New England goes in there with Drake May, throws the ball around a little bit, plays good defense that they're capable of, I think the wheels could fall off the wagon very quickly for Miami. Not just for this season, but like as a franchise with some of the things they'll have facing them going into the offseason without making the playoffs. I do think Miami wins this game. The offense has been incredibly efficient. Maybe they slow down a little bit this game. If you're Miami looking ahead on the schedule, you definitely, if you're going to slow down, want it to be this game and not next week's game. I think this is a get-right game for Miami's defense. They're still struggling to find a pass rush, and it's affecting their pass defense. The defense has been a little bit leaky the last couple weeks. It's not the same dominant defense it was a couple years ago or a couple weeks ago. Remember, the beginning of the season, this Miami defense was pretty daggone good. They were the best third down defense in the NFL at one time, and that's really where they're going wrong. They're not getting off the field at all. I mean, last week against the Raiders, they couldn't get off the field. Miami started the game with an 8-minute drive. The Raiders answered back with a 7.5-minute drive. Then the Dolphins went on another 8-minute drive, and the Raiders, I mean, there was like 4 real possessions in the first half because Miami's offense was doing their thing, which is a good thing to see, but they couldn't get off the field against the Raiders, who don't have a good offense. So That's the storyline. I want to see how Drake May can move the ball, if he can move the ball against this Miami's defense, and Miami's defense return to where it was earlier in the year. I do think Miami wins this game. I think it might be closer than people are imagining in their head. Moving on to the Commanders home against the Cowboys. Two teams that are moving in opposite directions. Two teams that have done the opposite of what people thought they were going to do coming into the year. People thought the Commanders were still rebuilding and that they weren't going to win a lot of games this year. They flipped that on their head. They're in the race for the division lead, even though last week's loss hurts them significantly in that. The Cowboys were supposed to push for the division this year, be a playoff team. They are now 3-7 on their backup quarterback, and everything looks grim as a Cowboys fan. Do not worry, though, Cowboys fans. The Lakers are playing well, and Duke basketball is finally here, so you don't have to worry about watching the Cowboys anymore. And if any of you Cowboys fans are mad about that shot, don't get mad at me when 75% of the internet trolls that at people are Yankee, Cowboy, Laker, Duke fans. Maybe Alabama football will make the playoffs for you guys, though. Commanders looking to rebound at home, get back in the win column. Are they on a 2-game losing streak? I think they might be. Losses to the Steelers, loss to the Eagles. Maybe there was one game in between. Doesn't matter. Commanders need a rebound at home to get to 8-4, keep pace with the Eagles, and I think they get it this week against the Cowboys. Too many CO teams. Then the Commanders get it against the Cowboys, who are on their backup quarterback. Dan Quinn's defense might be able to eat a little bit. Chiefs looking to rebound after losing to the Bills in Charlotte against the Panthers. Not a lot to say. Panthers, even though they've played a little bit better, still not a good team. Chiefs, coming off a Super Bowl loss, absorbing a Super Bowl win, my bad. They're coming off of a loss last week, their first loss of the season. The Chiefs, I still don't feel like are operating at the level the Chiefs should operate at, especially offensively. That there's a defense to get right against. It's definitely the Panthers. And you know what? I said it 2 weeks ago. I think if you're ever going to get a wake up call, it has to be losing. It has to be losing, right? Like sometimes it's harder to get a wake up call when you win. I think if they're ever going to get a wake up call, it should have been losing that game to the Bills, one of their biggest competitors, to making it back to the Super Bowl. I think the offense comes out ready to play and remind everybody that they're still elite, and they might have their way with the Panthers. I think that defense is going to be mad after giving up 30 points for the first time in a long time, and I think the Panthers could be in for a rough day at home. That's if anybody actually shows up to the game cheering for the Panthers. This could be a Kansas City sellout. I say that in jest. I'm not mad at the Panthers fans. I'm mad at their ownership for putting them in this horrid situation. But yeah, I think Chiefs by $1 billion. I don't know what the spread is, but I think I would. Not that I'm going to gamble it or bet it myself, and I don't recommend you listen to me right now because I don't know what I'm talking about in terms of gambling. But I think if it was like 25, I think I'm still putting it on the Chiefs to cover this week. It just eventually the Chiefs have a get-right game. This might be the week. Texans and Titans, a divisional matchup. Yay. A good team and a bad team. That sucks. Titans not very good. They do hang around. They might hang around for a quarter or two against the Texans. The Texans did let the Cowboys hang around. But the Texans are so much better. The Texans have much bigger things on their mind. They're at home. They're coming off of a big win, winning the in-state rivalry between the Cowboys. And I think the Texans are going to win this by double digits again. I don't think this game is going to be very close. Like I said, maybe the Titans hang around a little bit early. It's not going to stay that way. Texans win this game big, extend their lead in the division, and start trying to claw their way back in trying to get out of the 4 seed. Raiders and Broncos. Man, the Raiders do have one big upset this year. It was in Baltimore against the Ravens. The Broncos have also been to Baltimore to play the Ravens, and it went very differently for them, and they got absolutely spanked. Now, if you are some of the AFC teams we mentioned earlier, you are hoping that the Raiders and the Broncos both play like they did against the Ravens, because that means the Raiders score a massive upset against their division rival and make the Broncos 6-6 in the 7 seed, where the Colts winning would tie them A Dolphins win would put them a half game back. Who's the other team? I already forgot, guys. This isn't good. The Bengals. A Bengals win would put them at 5-6 or 6-6. 5-6. So a lot of teams that want the big upset and are hoping that what's the property called when one team loses to a team, another team beats the team. So you think, I can't remember the name right now. I'm sorry. I've been recording and doing podcast all day today. um, I give this big long explanation and lay all that out. While it would be fun if the Raiders win, coming off of last week's performance, the Broncos look really good. They're not going to slow down for this game. They're going to be ready against a division rival. Maybe the Raiders hang around. Maybe the Broncos don't cover Brock Bowers like it seems so many teams don't do, or I guess have trouble doing. The Raiders haven't looked good as of late. I think they're getting worse as the year goes on. The Broncos are getting better. Bo Nix looks better and better every game. Him and Sean Payton seem like they're really, really starting to figure each other out. I think this is the game the Broncos win to get the 7-5, pick up a big win for them, just for like a seeding and positional standpoint. But yeah, we're picking the Broncos here. Maybe the Raiders show up. It would be the funniest thing of all time if the Raiders finally pick up a win and get off this losing streak against the Broncos in this situation. I don't see it happening. Top 5 game of the week. 49ers looking to rebound at 5-5 against a 7-3 Packers team in Lambeau. You know, I would pick the 49ers. Most of the season, I would have picked the 49ers in this game. But I can't figure out what it is, but the 49ers just seem to not have it. The same it they had last year, the same it they had the year before that when they were making NFC Championship and Super Bowl runs. I just don't see the same it. I don't know if it's just one of those years where they're tired, one of those years where it's injuries. I don't know what it is. Maybe they're not going to get whatever it is back. Maybe they do get it back, and this is the game they put it all together because they still essentially have almost the same team that just went to the Super Bowl and came close to winning. The Packers, on the other hand, are playing pretty well, maybe a little bit closer than people wanted against the Bills, but they still picked up a win. Packers are at 7-3, and with their only 3 losses coming against really, really good teams. The Eagles at 8-2, the Lions at 9-1, and the Vikings at 8-2. So I mean, it's not like they've lost to bad teams. They've beaten some good teams, and they've beaten the teams they're supposed to beat, despite having their quarterback in and out of the lineup with injuries. So both of these teams are good. Both of these teams made the playoffs last year. Both of these teams won playoff games last year. 49ers desperately need a rebound. They're in last in their division at 500. A loss wouldn't put them out of anything, even if all the other teams won. Not that that's possible. But I'm going to go ahead and pick the Packers just based off of how they played this year. When both teams are playing to the best of their abilities, I do think the 49ers are better, and I do think the 49ers could win this game and gain some momentum. But just based off of how they've been playing so far in the season, I'm going to pick the Packers, and they're at home at Lambeau. That's a hard place to beat them consistently. Moving on. We're just talking about the NFC West. 4th place in the NFC West is 5-5. 3rd place in the NFC West is 5-5, and that's the Seattle Seahawks playing in this top 5 game of the week. 2nd place is 5-5 in the Rams, and 1st place is 6-4 in the Cardinals. Talk about a tight division. This is it. If the Seahawks win this game and the Rams and the 49ers win, all of these teams will have a 6-5 record and be tied with the same record in the division. I personally am here for that because I love chaos when it doesn't involve my favorite NFL team, which I have not announced yet in this podcast, and I will not announce. You can go to the comments and try and figure it out, which team I don't want to see chaos because they're my favorite team, because I do have one. But good luck with that because I try and be impartial. Anyway, back to the main storyline and get off of the side storylines. 5-5 Seattle versus 6-4 Arizona. Arizona coming off of bye week. Usually that means you have an extra week to prepare, it usually means you're going to do pretty good. Seattle did pick up a big win on the road last week. Seattle's never an easy place to play. This is going to be a top 5 matchup. We might see points. Cardinals defense is playing better. Seattle's defense is playing better, but I still think these offenses are the strength of both teams. We could see a game heading for the 30s for both sides, high 20s for both sides. Honestly, I think if either of these teams hold each other down a little bit, say a lot about how the defense has improved for both of these teams. I'm going to lean Seahawks, even though I think the smart pick here is the Cardinals. They're rested. They're coming off a bye. They've been the better and more consistent team this year. I like the Seahawks here, though. I think the Seahawks pass game is going to find a way to move the ball pretty well. They would hardly be the first ones to do it, and I think their defense finds enough stops to get them the win. Seattle in a very, very close, entertaining game. Highly recommend you watch this game. There's a lot of good 425 games. Moving on, the Rams and the Eagles. I was just talking about the Rams being second in the NFC North and the situation where all four teams could be 6-5. As you can see, I think this is going to be a good game. I have it marked as a top 5 game of the week. But the Rams are definitely the underdogs here, even though they're at home. This Eagles team is pretty darn good and has a lot less holes than the Rams do. The Rams defense can sometimes give up a little bit too much yardage, and the Rams offensive line isn't always that great either. The Eagles, good offensive line, check. Good weapons, check. Good defense, check. As long as Jalen Hurts plays well, they don't really have any holes. And Saquon Barkley has been phenomenal the last couple of weeks. This is a game the Rams can win. I don't think they do. I don't think we're going to get our dream maximum chaos scenario. While I do think this is going to be a good game, I do think eventually the Eagles are going to be too much for the Rams and overpower them. Win this game from 7 to 10 points, pulling away late. Definitely going to be close most of the way through, though. Eagles winning. I think Saquon has a good game. I think one of the receivers for Philly gets going. And I just don't think the Rams are going to be able to score quite as easily as the Eagles can in this game. Chargers and Ravens. Chargers, a big emotional win. Ravens, a big emotional loss. Maybe not a big loss, but just it was an important game that they lost. They're still on the road. Another primetime game. The Chargers all of a sudden have a better record than the Ravens, and we're going into week 12. I think you would have a lot of money if you bet that coming into the season. This is another top 5 games between two great teams. The Ravens desperately need a win. They need to get back in the win column. Don't want to drop too far back of the Steelers because they're probably going to lose. They're not going to finish with 2 losses, and the Ravens still play them. So the Ravens can still win the division and guarantee at least one home playoff game. The Chargers are only 2 games back of the Chiefs, and they still have a game against them. The Chargers feel like with a couple, they're 7-3. They're the 5 seed right now. They have 2 teams between them and the rest of the field in the AFC. Chargers are feeling good. This is the Harbaugh ball with Jim Harbaugh being back. We have Jim Harbaugh and John Harbaugh playing against each other again. Those matchups are always fun. One of my favorite Super Bowls was the Harbaugh ball and the lights going off and the Ravens finally beating the 49ers in a max chaos game. This one could be pretty fun too. Chargers defense, good. Ravens defense, good. Here's the difference. I do not think Justin Herbert is a bad quarterback. I think Justin Herbert is a good quarterback. I don't think Justin Herbert is at the same level of Lamar. I think that the Ravens are just a little bit better at every single skill position. So while the defenses are almost equal, maybe even an edge to the Chargers, you're going to get a pissed off Ravens team, and pissed off Ravens teams have a history of being very good. That's exactly what the Chargers are going to get. The Ravens are going. I'm not going to say I think the Ravens are going to win this game. I think they need it more than the Chargers do. The Ravens have something to prove. Lamar's going to be mad, and as long as his receivers catch the ball this week, Lamar is going to have a big game. Like I said, I know the Chargers are good, but when you have a good a good offense, sometimes they're going to get cooking no matter who they're playing. I think that happens this week. And I think the Ravens beat the Chargers, sending the Chargers to 7-4 and putting the Ravens back in the win column. I think this is going to be such a good game, the Harbaugh ball. I'm going to give it my game of the week. Again, everybody tune in. The Chargers might be the biggest surprise of the season, so everybody tune in, watch them play at home. Ravens, phenomenal team. I still think they have a top 3 ceiling in the league. I'm just waiting for them to hit it. So that is the last game. That was the primetime game. I don't know if you can tell, but my all of 4 of my 5 top games of the week are 425, 425, 820, all of those on Sunday, and 8:15 on Monday. So the 4 latest starting games are in my opinion the 4 best games this week. So this might be a Sunday afternoon you're able to spend some time away if you need to, and really the best football comes on Sunday afternoon, Sunday night, Monday night. So if you're worried about that kind of thing, or you're one of the 6 teams on bye this week, keep that in mind while you're making plans for week 12. Here you can see all of my summaries. All of my picks. This is a summary of all my picks. We always have this screen here. Again, as I said earlier, don't use these picks for betting. I'm not betting them myself, and I'm not a gambling expert. But when I get hot again this week, because I'm going to get hot again. What do you got? 13 games. I'm going at least 10-3. I hope. But yeah, these are my picks for this week. Feel free to look at them. And that is all, folks. That's all I had to talk about this week. We got down a couple of side pass. I hope you guys don't mind those. You hear me going a couple of soapbox things with those side pass. So let me know in the comments. How do you feel about that? Would you like me to see that? Would you like to see me continue to weave that into more content across all of the types of sports and videos we do? If so, maybe I'll see what I can do. I have plenty of rants and soapboxes I can get on, but I try and stay on topic here. Let me know if you want to see a couple more. Please comment. Also, please like and subscribe. All of those things help me a tremendous amount. It helps YouTube to see people are liking what I'm doing, and it will make YouTube recommend me to more people, which means more viewers. And I would appreciate more viewers. Also comment. So I've already told you to comment 1, maybe even 2 things. And this is the 3rd thing. I'm not trying to give you homework. I know we all are busy. But it takes like 10 seconds to comment. 3rd thing I want you to comment is I want everybody to keep commenting their current record, their weekly record, and tell me if you think I'm going to hit our record, because I think we're going to settle it at a 70% winning percentage. Everybody, thank you for taking time out of your busy days, your weeks, your busy schedules to listen. I can confirm there's no more episodes coming this week of Ben on Sports. We'll see what happens next week. I hope you enjoyed the football and the college basketball. Everybody have a good rest of your week. Go see your families next week for Thanksgiving. Peace out.